This is Joe Cormack, having been privileged to be a life camp counselor as well as a trailblazer counselor for many a long year. I'll give you a brief outline of what Part 1 takes in. There'll be comments from me made as a result of notes that I took after I'd had a wonderful chat with Betty Faust when we both met down at our friend's Mary Nell Morrison's house. The next sections that were taped are as a result of my visit to Hillside House at Sussex View from Friday evening, October 5th to Monday morning, October 8th, 1984. I asked Betty as to how she heard about camp. She read an article in Time magazine about life camps, and this was 1939, in the spring of 39. The story told about new philosophy that L.B. Sharp was developing and how the life camps was moving from Branchville, Connecticut to Sussex, New Jersey. And it also gave the address where one could apply for a job, and that's how Betty applied.
Okay, now let's see what else. Oh, well, maybe what I studied in school. For 2 years I was in a teacher's college studying and practice teaching in public school art. And after that I changed to school that's now part of Temple University. And my major, I studied horticulture and landscape design. And of course farm animals and flowers and all those things.
Her very first day at camp, one of her brothers drove her up to camp, and I just get the picture of this. And hardly having time to get herself organized, oriented, to even gaze around, she was immediately put to work and sent to the linen room, which was finished at that time, to help some of the men pack up the blankets and the sheets and the towels and everything and truck the things out to the small camps that were going to be used for pre-camp. Now remember, 1939, the first year at Mashipacong.
It was girl counselors who were driving the truck. It wasn't, we weren't helping the men. The men weren't even involved. And what we hauled out was beds and mattresses, and we lugged the beds and set them up and all. And the mattresses too. This was quite an introduction. But I had a good time.
From what Betty told me, covered wagons, the donkeys, the goats, were all walked or marched or what have you from Branchville, Connecticut to Mashipacong. The buildings that were finished at pre-camp time were the lodge number 1, and that is where the counselors got their meals. The meals were prepared in the lodge kitchen. Work was being done on the dining hall. Now, during pre-camp time, the dining hall had flooring and the outline of the roof. The kitchen was well underway. The store did not exist. Betty spoke about how they finally finished the roof on the dining hall. It was the very day that Lois went into the city to pick up the campers, and there were approximately 100 men working on the roof to finish it, so the campers would have some cover when they came for a meal.
The dining hall, yeah, was really finished, except they did put the roof on the day the campers were to arrive.
With 100 men,
right. With 100 men on the roof,
right.
Yes. All local fellows. The walls and things were up, but there were no windows, and you who know the dining hall know that there are verticals, 2 verticals in each of the window openings. Those verticals weren't in. They were just like great picture windows without the glass. And of course there were no doors either, and that's how the goats walked in and out.
I don't know whether it was later in the summer or the next season that the front stoop with a 7-ton rock plus the bell-bottom pillars were put on, because that was originally not in the plan. In regard to the other buildings, now this is not just pre-camp, but it's that first summer. They had the Little Dipper. No Big Dipper all summer long. So you get the picture of going down for a swim to shower your kids with, and then march them all the way down to the lake and then back to the lake, that garden area. Now, continuing with the first summer, there were 10 small camps, And the only thing that existed in those small camps were the shelters were done and water was piped in. No fireplace was set up, nothing. So everyone was met with an extra challenge, to say the least. Also that first year, I'm quite sure that Betty's first summer she spent at Homestead, but then the next 3 or 4 years at camp, she spent at Hermit Glen, which was called at that time Explorers of the Outpost. When I started at camp in 51, it was called Weppawag, so it's gone through many changes of names, to say the least. Timber Ridge did exist at that time, and it was still at that time the small camp for the oldest girls. Trails Inn was another extension for older kids. That was located, I think, on the way to Fisherman's Cabin. It was there that they would go and build their own shelters and really start from scratch. Hopefully, perhaps the next time I talk with Betty, we'll get some of these things straightened out. I was corrected in the fact that you were at Homestead. How many years, though?
Only 1 year.
Only 1 year.
And then I moved up to teenagers, and that was the outpost, and I was only there 2 years. And then I moved over to Great Tarn. Now, in those years, we grouped the campers. 1 month, outpost was the older, and the next month, Great Tarn was the older. So they were all 13s and 14s. And I've forgotten when Trails End started. Maybe 42 or 43. They started Trails End, which was the oldest girl.
Yeah.
And it was first at near Fisherman's Cabin on the hill there. But they moved it around. And the fascinating thing was they dug their own 6-foot latrine. They built everything, except their water was piped out. But then, at the end of July, that took them at least a week, and we never saw them the first week. At the end of July, they ripped down everything so the kids in August could have the same experience. And I thought, well, that was really rugged.
Now, remember, camp was a big organization. My camp was a big organization, most things. So L.B. Sharp was executive director. Lois was the director of the girls' camp. Bill Gunn was the director of the boys' camp. Then there were 2 boys' camps, one at Raritan and one at Polbridge. I asked Betty in regard to the role of national camp fit.
Well, National Camp was started, I think, in 41, but possibly 40, across the lake from the girls' camp. It was really for camp educators. It wasn't just adults going to camp. But we were there as the little ones to be observed, putting the things into practice. So we never knew who was going to be our guests for supper, because any day they could show up with 2 people and drop off 2 at your camp, and that's your supper guests. But you never knew in advance, so you just kind of stretched things for them.
No, on the closing of camp.
I guess I was in a daze, and I don't know if I'll remember enough.
My
I just
second
got
year.
fired.
When did you learn? We learned at staff banquet.
Did too. And I think maybe Lois did about herself. I don't know.
Because all he did was come in. And,
and
Lois,
make an announcement.
I think he might have whispered something to Lois, but camp opened the next year as Trailblazers.
But we never missed. Yeah.
Right.
That's Lois.
That's Lois.
Some people think that work is work, and some think work is play. Gardening used to seem like work until the other day. I felt the soil between my hands, the soil so rich and brown. I dropped the seeds along the row and gently pressed them down.